wasn't recording. Why not? There we go. Wow, first time I didn't check. Thank you for catching that. Great. So, so this module is like a class, and it has it's just surrounding these methods and these constants and variables that I might have, and keeps them separate so that I don't have any method conflicts. Because if I just did this, and then which version of this sign method or sin method is going to be used? We don't know. So we have to tell it, look in the trig module, because I'm going to look specifically in the trig module for this method called sign. And I want to look at a variable. This is what type of variable? Constant. Very good. Because it starts with a capital letter, and by default, if we put all caps, most Ruby programmers use all caps for constants like that. So that version of pi, to get at that, I use 2 colons. That says, look inside the trig module and give me back the constant represented by pi here. So this entire value here is 3.1416. Okay, so that's just a number, and I can divide by 4, and so that ends up being some number if I were to execute that. All right, so to keep that separate from my moral module, I've got some other constants that I've defined, and I've defined a class method called sin, which is different but is spelled the same, and it does, dealing with badness, okay? So to get at that value, I do a moral dot sin, and that's going to call this method inside of this moral module. And this is to access a constant. I use this double colon here. Okay, so you'll see a lot of this in Rails because Rails is such a large collection of Ruby programs that they split everything up into these modules so that I don't have conflicts. That's basically the reason. Yes. Because this also gets away from the idea of having globals, because we don't want to have a global called pi that anybody can access, because somebody's version of pi might be different than yours. So we want to make sure that we would put that into a namespace, some Dave's namespace, and Dave's version of pi, you're specifically looking for that one. So it's used for constants a lot. Keep them separate, as opposed to having global variables. Right? So, but I would never do anything like this. I would never say a equals trig.new. There's no that should give me an error. There's no concept of a new for a module. So it's different than a class. I don't instantiate an object from a module. All it does is encapsulate all these big computer science words. It puts it all together, puts an abstraction layer around a bunch of methods and constants.
So to actually use that besides a colon, like you did down the bottom there, you have to include it?
Yeah, so if these were in separate files, I'd first have to include it. So say the above are in a separate file, right? And so this is my main program. In here, I would have to include my trig module. And, or require it. Sorry, require it. I'm going to require my trig module, and then I can call the trig, etc. So, does that make sense? A little bit? All right. So let's do, that's a real simple case. Let's look at the linguistics gem that I talked a little bit about yesterday. And we're going to do something similar to that. This is defined as a module. So first of all, we have to install it. So you got to get used to installing gems. I typically like to install them from the command line because it's faster. It just seems easier to me. So we're going to run the program called Gem, which is a program that was installed when we installed Ruby. Okay? And we're going to say install, and the name of the file, which is linguistics. Okay? And I already did, well, I'll just go ahead and do it. So you guys can do that yourself to make sure they're there. Some other commands dealing with Gem that you're going to get real used to when you get to Rails is we need to list to see what types of gems I already have installed on my system. Now, these are installed not on they're installed inside of my Ruby file, inside of my Ruby directory. So it doesn't matter where I am when I do this command, it's going to put it in the same place. There's no, it takes care of where the files are on your disk. So it actually is putting them in my C drive / Ruby-193 or whatever you have there. So these are all, this is a ton of gems that I have already installed. Most of them came from Rails. What? Yeah. Cocaine.
Coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll get to a lot of these. Coffee's a superset of JavaScript. So if you want to learn yet another, all these action things are modules or parts of the Rails package. And you can see you have different versions of them. What is what? Well, I didn't catch it. What's uglifier? Oh, uglifier. Oh, yeah. Uglifier takes, where is it? Here it is, uglifier. What that does is it takes code that you've written, like JavaScript. And have you ever looked at Google's site? Let's go to Google. The best way to do this is to look at the source. And look at that. That's this is what we call uglified JavaScript. This is all executable JavaScript. You see a function for var b get attribute. Look at that. A little hard to read though, right? Not indented like with Dave's standards at all. So why do they do that?
Save on space.
Save on space is one of them. It compresses all the spaces out of that. It takes long, nice variable and method names that we tell you to create all the time, squishes them into a method name called A. And so to read this, it also makes it's what they call obfuscated, which means it's very difficult to read. Even an experienced programmer would have to go through this character by character, probably format it first, just to see that it looked right, and then try to go through and figure out what the A method did. We name them like get string or something that makes sense. They named it A, and then the next method they found, they named it B, and the next method they found, they named C. So it's a program that goes through the JavaScript code and rewrites it into this ugly format. So it makes it hard to copy their code, and it makes it smaller to distribute. So that's what uglifier did. All right. Any other questions while we're there? It's always good stuff, fun stuff. All right. So this installed my Linguistics gem, and so it's installed on the system. So I can use this right away, and I'm going to do it in IRB to start with. So in IRB, what we have to do is tell my environment, just like a program, that I'm going to use this linguistics gem. Similar to C#, you would say use linguistics or something, right? Library. I need to require that, And so I'm going to use this structure here, require and linguistics as the string name. Require linguistics. All right, and it comes back and says true. That means it has loaded in the module linguistics. I can now execute methods on the module. So the first thing I have to do is tell linguistics. Now notice this colon. This says in the linguistics model, use this method called use and pass in, what is this? You think, yeah, it's English, right? You can see that right away. What does the colon en mean? What type of, it's a symbol, right? All right, good. So, and again, that's for saving space, and you'll see that a lot in Rails, symbols. So we're going to do linguistics. We're going to call the linguistics module, and we're going to call the use method in it, and we're going to pass it the variable or the symbol en. And that says I want to use English translation module in my linguistics gem. And now, doing that, it added abilities to my built-in classes. So it added abilities to my string, my numeric, and my array class. It monkey-patched data methods on top of those. It extended those classes to add additional methods to it. So, for instance, I could say something like this. In English, convert 2004 into words. So from the English module, I'm going to call the numWords method, and that is now an extended method on the numeric class. So it converts it into words, 2004. Isn't that sweet? So I can have some huge, well, actually I need actual numbers. I can have a really big number and call en, oops, it's off the screen, dot numWords. Oh, I have some digit in here that's wrong. That's why. Now, Ruby handles big numbers like this without dropping a beat, right? Doesn't care. Even though this is a number that's larger than 64 bits, right? Ruby automatically takes this and converts it. If I look at the class, it converts it into an internal class called BigNum. So it will handle arithmetic larger than the computer natively can handle, right? Which is just really sweet. So I'm going to call the English module and call this numWords on this guy. And it comes back with this huge long string, 98 octodecillion, 723 septimdecillion, 948 sextillion, and some long number. So he did essentially what you have to do in your check writer, but this doesn't work on floats. This only works on, so I can't do 1.20.en.numWords. Oh, it did do that. I can't believe it. It didn't do that before. It does work on a float, but it gives you 1.2, right? So, right. So it doesn't help you much, except to show you that it can be done. And it did other things like it has some plurality. If I have cow, I can call the plural of that, and it comes out with cows. I can call moose, and it comes out with mooses. And if I call goose, it comes back with geese. So it pluralizes things correctly. And it does a bunch of other English kinds of things with infinitives and verbs and stuff like that I don't care about. But so these numbers, I wanted to show you, are things that aren't usually used very often. So on Wikipedia, they have a list of all of these words and what they stand for. So million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion. You guys probably know up to this. Then it gets into bigger numbers that we just typically don't use. And then we have a Google, which is what is 10 to the 100th power. Typically, what we do when you get into math like this, they don't write these numbers out. They write it in scientific notation, which is 10 to the 36th power, 1 times 10 to the 36th, or something like that. So anyway, that's where he got these numbers. And I noticed it looks like he has an error that this is called septendecillion, and he calls it septemdecillion. I think he has a bug in his code, so we should go fix that for them. All right. Any questions on that? I just wanted to show you how we use a gem, and we're going to be using a lot of those as we get into Rails. And for your final project, I think I have decided that you're going to do the word search. The word search requires that you use that you're going to create a PDF file from your program. And so I have a gem for that. Huh? Of course we do. Yeah, there's a gem. It's like, is there an app for that? Yeah, there's probably a gem for that too. So let's look at that. And it's called Prawn. Is one of them. There are actually a couple of them, but this is a gem also, and I think I already have mine installed. Let's see if I have Prawn installed here. I don't. Look at that. So we say gem install Prawn. And it will go do its thing. And let's go look up the documentation for that. Prawn, gem, Ruby. And here's the documentation for the Prawn. And it's a way of generating PDF files. And if you a PDF file, if you ever opened a PDF file in a text processor, what do you think you'd find? A lot of code, right? So let's actually do that, just to show you. I have this 404 which I generated. So this is a PDF file that looks like this. If I were to open it with the Adobe Reader, this is what it looks like. That's another program that I usually have you guys write, a web crawler. And so this is what it is. This is actually the text that describes how to draw that text on the screen or on the document. And these are all coordinates for moving the little paintbrush to someplace and drawing the text. This is all in a language that's called, anybody know what the language is? It's actually a language. And it's called, and you can see some of the text in here. See that? That's one of the URLs that I have. It's called PostScript. Anybody ever heard of that? It was a language invented by Adobe way back in the early to mid 80s, and it was designed to be a way to describe a document so that it could be printed in any resolution. And that was in like 1985, 86. Apple came out with the laser printer, and it used PostScript as the language. So you would send it a language of what you wanted to draw on the page, and the printer would draw it on the page. It had intelligence inside the printer. You weren't just sending it pixels to draw on the page. And that way you could scale it, and it would draw, a circle in one resolution. If you drew it bigger, it would draw a nicer circle in a larger resolution. So anyway, so that's what PDFs are. Oops. I just want to close that one. So let's see if it finished installing my gem. Yep, it installed not only the prawn gem, but a bunch of other stuff that it needed to be able to run. So there's a bunch of other gems that it installed that prawn required. Those are called dependencies. And so the gem program takes care of loading dependencies and things like that. So let's start by playing with some PDF stuff. And to do that, we need to require the prawn file, just like the linguistics gem. And then let's do some stuff. The first thing is we need to create a new file. So notice that this prawn is now, what do you think this prawn is? Is it a class or a module? Because it's got 2 colons after it. The prawn now has this namespace in it. And it's got inside of it, what do you think this is? It's a class because it's capitalized. So there's a class that was defined inside of a module, and we're calling this generate method, which is inside the class. Does that make sense? All right, let's do something like this, and I'll modify it so that we do something. Let's see. Just do something simple for now. All right, so let me explain what's going on here. The prawn, this generate method, calls a block of code. So this is a block of Ruby code, a lot like opening a file. Remember we did opening files that had blocks around it, things like that. And this PDF is an object that I use to call methods on. So it gives me an object that I can say, I want to set the font for this PDF object to the font named Courier. Okay, then I want to move my cursor on the page down by 100. And then I want to draw some text on this PDF document. And this is the text that I'm going to draw. And I want you to draw it at the coordinates 0 and wherever y is. Okay, because in a document, a PDF document, it has x and y coordinates, right? So you need to be able to move where you're going to start drawing and then draw the text on that particular place. So let's run this and see if it actually runs. All right, it ran. Now, nothing happened here, right? But if we look at in the file, see it came up here in my dave.pdf. It's creating this dave.pdf. I can open this. And it says, hello there, class. This is a PDF opened by Adobe Reader, and I put this text at the 100 position down on the page. Isn't that sweet? I'm not feeling great love from you at all here. You can create now PDF documents from inside your program, and I can draw anything I want onto this PDF and send it. So when we get to Rails and things like that, maybe I want to have the user have the ability to have a PDF of their invoice or their order form that they had. You can have it generate that for you automatically and email that to them, for instance. I don't know, has anybody seen that on the web? Where you get a PDF, download this PDF, you know, they're doing that dynamically. They're generating these files dynamically. All right, so I can move down some more and print another screen, another text. You can't do that, Dave. We'll run it. We'll leave that open just to show you. Or we'll run it, and I get an error. It says permission denied, dave.pdf, open, render. So it's trying to open this file called dave.pdf. And I get this error called an access error. Why do you think I got that? It already exists, one thing, but it also is open. The Adobe Reader has this file open, so it's blocked it on the disk and so I can't do that. So I need to close that, rerun it, it'll resave it, and I can open the file again. There you go. So it printed the first line, went down 100 points, printed out. You can't do that, Dave. Which, by the way, on the Ruby trip, I bought the domain name youcan'tdothatdave.com.
Wow.
But I don't know why I can't get to it, but you can't do that. I thought that'd be a fun domain name to play with. So, all right. So I can draw text. That's all well and good. What else can I do? I can actually do some circles and some colors and some other stuff. So let's do this. This is setting the color. And this is a lot like your C# where you have have you guys ever played with the canvas piece? The brushes, you have to set the brush color and the size and the stroke width and the all kinds of stuff, right? So we're setting the color to, what color is this? You should know this. It's red, right? RGB. First two are the red, green, blue. So this is all red, as red as you can get. And then we're going to set the line width to 5. And then we're going to call this stroke method that has a block into it. So we want to actually execute all of these commands in this one block. So I want to draw a circle at position 300, 300. What do you think that is?
XY.
XY. And what does it represent in a circle? Okay. The center point of the circle. Every coordinate system is different. Some of them define the top left corner of the square that would surround the circle. But this is the center point of the circle. And what do you think this would be then? The radius, okay? So I have a radius, so a big circle, and then I move to another point, and I draw a little circle. I move to another point, draw another little circle. And then this is a curve, a little more complicated. It's a Bezier curve. You have to define points and where it bends, and also the surrounding box, the rectangle that surrounds where that curve is. And all of that together mathematically defines this curve. This is top left and bottom right of the square, of the rectangle. All right, so let's run this guy. Let's close my PDF. Let's run this guy again. Runs fine. Open my PDF. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And I did that myself. He's even got a little smirk over here. That was just by luck. So that's in red. If I change that, I could have this be in let's make him blue instead and rerun it. Now I've got a blue little guy. Isn't that cool? No? I think it's cool. All right. I'm not feeling the love here at all. Let's see. And this is just printing another text at a really large size. So let's run that guy. And it says, isn't this cool? So given a program like this, it's fairly easy. Instead of doing puts to the screen, I can essentially do the same thing. I'm going to draw text instead and print it to the PDF file instead. So it's fairly easy to do that because the gem figured out all that for you. Isn't that nice? All right, so just to give you a treat of what you're going to do, your assignment, the word search, will create a file that looks like this. All text. And you guys did these in school. Get rid of that thing, I'm sure. And the teacher had to have a key to find out where the words are. But you're going to create this word search puzzle that you can hand out to your people. Pardon me? Yeah. So, like, this one is melon going down. See that melon? So it's up here, M-E-L-O-N. It's right here. I don't think I can just... Yeah, there you go. So there's melon, roughly. Melon. So this is your program. This is going to be your final, creating this PDF, given just a list of words. And every time you run it, this will be different. It'll be randomly generated. Doesn't that sound like fun? Just like fun, only different. Yes. All right. So that's a taste of your final. All right. Any questions?